So, on to the election of 1848. James K. Polk kept his promise and did not run for re-election, and that left the Democrats kind of scrambling. They got a man named Lewis Cass nominated, and the Whig Party, which our boy Henry Clay was a founder and member of, trotted out Zachary Taylor. Zachary Taylor was a war hero from the Mexican-American War, so he played a key role in fulfilling Manifest Destiny and thus was able to gain a large portion of popular support and win. Now, Zachary Taylor, uh, wasn't slavery's biggest supporter. He wasn't totally against it. He honestly just cared more about keeping the country together. He thought that secession and the South wanting to break away was the biggest thing, the biggest trouble facing America. And Zachary Taylor only ends up spending about 16 months in office because he dies in office. But before that happens, he tells California to apply for statehood, and they apply as a free state. And this creates some turmoil. The South are freaking out because they think that this is the end of slavery. Um, California is a free state. There's nowhere farther to go west. They're stuck where they are. And so they pretty much threaten to just break away and secede and become their own country right then and there. But then comes in our old friend Henry Clay. Now, he looks a little bit less scary here, but actually, he looks still pretty terrifying. And he comes in with the Compromise of 1850. So remember how earlier I said Henry Clay kicked the can of slavery down the road? Well, the can's back now, 30 years later. And in this compromise, he comes up with four key points. The first is that California is going to become a free state, no questions asked. It is what it is. But to make the South happy, they're going to institute this strict fugitive slave law. The other 2 points are that New Mexico and Utah will be able to determine their status as a slave or free state through popular sovereignty. And then finally, there's going to be no slave trade anymore in Washington, D.C. They're still allowed to own slaves in the nation's capital, but they're not allowed to trade or sell them there. But going back, this fugitive slave law is the one of the most controversial laws in American history, uh, and it's the key reason why we need to know about the Compromise of 1850, because this really turns this country up on its head. It turns all the American citizens, the American white citizens up in the North, into potential police officers or prisoners, and then it turns all the people of African descent, freed blacks, what have you, into potential victims. So basically, it creates a harsh system where all citizens are required to assist in recapturing escapees, meaning that if you were in the street and you saw an African American running away from someone else who's trying to capture him, you are responsible to stop that from happening, right? To stop him and allow him to be captured, or you could face a fine. Which, while many people in the North didn't really care about slavery because it wasn't part of their problem, they didn't live down in the South, what have you, out of sight, out of mind, they were not comfortable being put in this situation. The other and more important issue is that anyone of African descent could be accused of someone trying to take advantage. And so a black person, African descent, living in the North, lived in the North their whole life, right? Maybe one of the slaves got their freedom, moved to the North, had a family. So that child was born in the North, was born free their whole life. They could be accused of being a runaway slave. There's not really any papers to say that they're free or not, and boom, they go to the South and now they're in this awful situation. So this law really galvanizes and changes the way society works in the North. Um, and does not make the abolitionists happy. Um, so while this did stop the South from breaking away, obvious, it was only for 10 years, so it didn't work out too well, and it did not make the people in the North very happy.